Hello and welcome back to a Tinto Talk video. I apologize that this video is coming out a little bit later than usual. My parents arrived from Ireland to come and visit, and I was picking them up from the airport. So they're here, they're eating some pizza right now and watching some Grand Tour, and I'm taking a moment to have a look at today's Tinto Talks, which has... it's a lot of things in it. There is a lot of things in it. But first of all, we have this map, which is a map of the development in EU5. And the first thing that I will point out is there is a bug with the map right now. If I go over to here, the Baltic's so developed compared to some other parts of Europe, but it is in fact a bug. I believe the Baltic's development is having something calculated twice. So just pretend that this is like half as dim as it is. But I just wanted to stick with this map for a moment because I would just like to point out, holy greenery on China. That is an insane amount of development that we've got. And I know my face is a little bit in the way, so I'm just going to quickly get rid of my face. But that is an insane amount of development, and especially you can definitely see Beijing right here, very much present and very, very colorful. But how about we get into the developer diary itself and we can have a gander at what exactly development is and does, because it is not like it is in EU4, obviously, and thankfully. But anyway, let's get into it and see what we have going on. Welcome to another Tinto Talks. Happy Wednesday, where we inform you about how things will work in the super secret game with the codename Project Caesar. In today's Tinto Talks, they'll delve into a few different and not entirely related topics, but they're important for what they need to talk about, as they will be referenced a fair bit in future Tinto Talks. That is good to know. So, prosperity and devastation. We have both of these in EU4, but they will be working just a little bit differently. In Project Caesar, it's a single value in a location ranging from -100 to +100%. That is, of course, very different from in EU4, where you have devastation going from 0 to 100%, and if you have 0 devastation and positive stability, you have a chance to gain prosperity every month. But this is a... I mean, they should be on the same scale, let's be honest. This is a good idea. Positive is prosperity and negative is devastation. Prosperity represents how prosperous and resourceful a location is. A prosperous location increases development over time. Prosperity will slowly rise unless a different negative circumstance reduces it. If it goes negative, it will cause devastation. There is no direct way for the player to increase prosperity, but having a peaceful country will have it slowly increase over time. And we have this UI element that we can have a look at as well. So prosperity in Kalmar in Sweden is at 25%. It's changing by 0.18% per month due to free subjects, market fares, the base value for a location, and the average satisfaction. I will point out, nothing here says anything about being peaceful, unless we got something on devastation, which is it war, negative, but there isn't. So I don't know why being a peaceful country is actually going to affect it, unless there is something here will not be here, like maybe the base value will go away if it is if you're at war, potentially. I don't know, but there's nothing here that says, you know, country is at peace, therefore prosperity plus, you know. Devastation, though, it represents how ravaged a location is. It includes burnt down farms and abandoned villages, and the biggest sources of devastation are blockades and occupation. We saw in a previous Tinto talk that blockades were mighty, you know, devastating, to use a very relevant word, but horrible. They were absolutely horrendous. So blockades going to be way more impactful than they ever have been in EU4. And occupation as well, obviously, will do quite a bit to your devastation. It has a rather huge impact on a location over time, reducing how much food and raw materials it produces and the population over time. I believe it also reduces the amount of constructed goods or manufactured goods. I don't know why it's not mentioned here, but in the comments he did clarify that it would also reduce that. If you have high devastation in any location in a province, the Age of Renaissance has an advance that enables a cabinet action where you can focus on recovering devastation in a province until it's recovered fully. Perfect. That's really good to have that in there. Ideally, you do not want any sort of war or conflict happening on your own lands. This is going to make island countries... look, I'm going to go out and say it. It's going to make Britain ridiculously powerful. Because the only time you're going to have a war on British soil is probably going to be rebellions, civil wars, that sort of thing. You're probably not going to get invaded by France. This ain't 1066 anymore. England actually has boats. And if that's the case, that, you know, getting prosperity is going to be so nice, devastation is really bad, and any wars that England is going to be fighting is going to be foreign wars, you know, expeditionary wars, that's going to be really good for England. You know, this is going to be very, very good for England, I think. But yeah, not having any sort of war conflict on your own lands makes sense. Looking at devastation, though. Devastation at 10% in Palanga. I have no idea where that is. It goes down by 1.81. Of course, we still have the free subjects mark fares, the base value, but average satisfaction is there as well. But being occupied is minus 2%. So this is identical to this, just with the occupation. Due to the devastation here, it's also going to recover by 0.5% each month. I feel like this is not applying, because if you add all these numbers up, it does reach minus 181. This isn't applying up here, and I would argue that while occupied, this shouldn't apply. I don't really get why this is here. Like, oh, you have some devastation, you have 10% devastation, well, let me try and fix that for you while it's still being occupied. This, I feel like, should be a case of the war is over, we're no longer occupied, this is what's going to be bringing us back to equilibrium, or bringing us back into prosperity. But devastation of 10%, so times this by 10 for the full values. Pop promotion speed will go down. Migration attraction goes down. Raw materials output goes down. Population growth goes down. Food production goes down. The literacy goes down, though I'm not sure by how much because, you know, 0. The monthly development growth goes down, and the life expectancy, which is a new thing that we'll talk about in a moment, will also go down. It's not ideal. Let's end the war as soon as possible. On to development, though, which is thankfully so different to EU4. I am a very big hater of EU4's development system. I don't like it. I don't like clicking buttons to increase development. I think it's pretty naff. So I'm very, very happy that this has been changed. And I did have a comment on my Discord today basically saying, oh, Lambert's in shambles, development exists. Because the word is the same. I don't care about the word. The word development, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the mechanic in EU4 that I do not like, and that is not going to be the case in EU5. So, what is development going to do? One concept that has been in many of our previous grand strategy games is development. It's been used for various things, but in Project Caesar, development represents how cultivated the land is and how much it's used by the pops living there. The higher the development, the more people can live there, the more it can be exploited. This is sounding very much like the civilization value in Imperative Rome. So if you kind of want to get an idea of how that plays out, then I would recommend going and giving Imperative Rome a try. And you should anyway, because it is a good game. As mentioned in earlier Tinto talks, this is a value that the player mostly only has indirect control over, but you can have your cabinet working on improving development in an entire province at once. Fantastic. Development helps a fair bit in improving the quality of a location, but all of these values here are still constantly being balanced, so don't take them as verbatim. They may be changed by the end of the game. So, development is 17 in Kalmar, and it changes by a very, very small amount per month. The prosperity is having an effect. What's the prosperity in Kalmar again? If this is the same, it's 25%. Leads to 0.0025, which is kind of crazy. Develop province, I believe, is the cabinet action being used, which is the majority of this game. It being woods makes it go down, it being coastal makes it go up, but of course these are percentages rather than flat numbers, and then the average literacy is also having an effect there as well. So, 17 development, what does that affect? The maximum RGO size, you're going to get more raw materials. It's going to affect the construction cost, which, I'm just going to put it out there, build buildings cost is less good of a term than just construction cost. I hope they change this build buildings cost to just construction cost. I don't know. It just feels clunky. It's the most minor of gripes ever, but I kind of want them to change this construction cost. Anyway, migration attraction will go up. Distance cost to capital. This is via the control mechanic. So the cost of control is minus 17% for 17 development. Got population capacity going up an absolute ton. So at 100 development, we are going to see huge amounts. And also, we have no idea if 100 is actually the maximum, right? There's nothing here saying that, it goes from 0 to 100. What is the maximum development? Will we have an equilibrium point where, the higher development, the higher it is to push it up? Who knows? I don't know, because it's not here, right? If we had seen, development is 17, so then we're getting a minus to development growth, that would be the indication of an equilibrium point, but it doesn't exist. So are we going to be artificially capped at 100, or is there no cap and we can just keep going? But anyway, population capacity going way up with even a small amount of development. I imagine it's 5% per one, I think, right? Or 4% per one. So at 20, it's 100%. So at 100, it would be 500% population capacity at 100, which just seems crazy high. We got supply limit going up. Fantastic. Love that. Blockade force required, so the amount of ships that you'll need to blockade the province, or the location, I should say. Institution growth, crazy numbers. Okay, that's 8 per. No, it's 10 per. It's 10 per, and this must. Yeah, okay. So I'm mathing on camera. It's never a good idea. But 10% per development is huge. We got market attraction, the maximum stockpile efficiency. Of course, your market centers have stockpiles, so getting more goods in there is a good thing. Life expectancy here, +1, and construction speed, +17%. So let's talk about life expectancy, because this does come into the comments a little bit. So I have this comment by St. Dave that I'm going to read to you now. So, life expectancy value affects the characters in the location, not the population. The idea is that a minister living up in Versailles is likely to live a little bit longer than one stationed in an undeveloped, war-torn frontier, as he has better access to things like diet and healthcare. So we are going to get location-based characters, right? The characters don't exist just in the ether in the country. They are going to be, placed in a place, which is, I think, a pretty good deal. So that is what life expectancy is, which is good to know. But now we move on to roads, and roads are a thing that I really loved in Empire of Rome. Being able to build the roads and see them on the map, and yes, they will be able to be seen on the map. People very much wanted to know this, the answer to this. But yes, you will see the roads on both the flat paper map and in the 3D environment, which is great news. But yeah, I really liked building roads in Imperative Rome. I didn't think that it would be a good idea to have it be the same way, right? In Imperative Rome, you have an army, set it to road building, and then have it move to a location. I didn't really want to see that again, and we're not getting that, right? There is a new way to build roads, and let us go into it and see how exactly those are made. So, we've read roads in many of our former games, and this game will also have roads. In Project Caesar, this includes one of the most in-depth systems of roads we have ever made. And I will point out that the only one that I can think of that is more in-depth, a bit more finicky, let's say, is the way that you build railways in Hearts of Iron 4. Being able to draw on the map and seeing the railways go like that. I think that's probably the only one that is, you know, more in depth. You know, just to say, you can't really say, you know, most, if there is one that is more, you know, that there isn't one that is more in depth. But anyway, I feel like this is looking pretty good. Anyway, moving on. A road is basically a connection between two land locations. So it does not exist in the location, it exists between the locations. It's a very important distinction that quite a lot of people asked about in the comments. It reduces the proximity calculations from 40 down to 20, so we're halving it. And there are multiple types of roads as well, so that will go down and down and down. Most settled nations start with the capacity to build gravel roads, but there are 3 advances in later ages that will introduce new types of roads that can be built. We know that the final road type is going to be a railway. And I don't know what the other ones is going to be, but paved and stone would be my guess, right? They will reduce proximity further and increase movement speed for armies, which is good to know. It may sound like it could be a lot of micromanagement if we use the way that railroads were built in Victoria 2, which is, yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare. Or how roads were built in Imperator. But we have a few easier ways to build or upgrade road networks. So, here we have Kalmar selected. Kalmar being down here on the coast next to the island of... can't remember. I don't remember. This one's Scotland. I can't remember what this island's called. Whatever. It doesn't matter. This is Kalmar right here. We're looking at building a road to Idre, which is in Norway, way up and above the screen at the start of the game. You can build roads into the location of any country that has a positive opinion of you, so road networks can and will be connected for trade. So, this guy playing as Sweden is not going to be building all these roads up here. He is going to be building the road connection between his own land here and whatever the location is across the border right there. As long as he has a positive opinion, of course. The green locations are locations you can afford to build a road from Kalmar to at the moment. The striped locations are locations with an already existing road network. And then the white outlined locations are the proposed path for the road between Kalmar and Idre. So this is what we are looking like for this road system. Road building is one of the most important and fun parts of the control growing gameplay loop, which is great to know, right? Again, I really liked building roads in Imperator. I loved seeing my actions have tangible, visible effects on the map, and we're going to get that here as well. So I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can have a little gander at it. So yeah, you're building a gravel road. It will reduce the movement cost, which is fantastic. But building this road is going to cost 1,000 ducats. That is kind of crazy. That is very, very crazy. That is makes it look like road building is going to be monstrously expensive. Absolutely monstrously expensive. And we do know there are various things that are going to affect the cost of building roads. For example, the terrain will change the cost of it, the development will change the cost of it, we've already basically seen that. And they also require goods. So what goods they will require, we can't really tell, but we can assume things like stone will be used, probably some wood as well. Other things, I don't know, but I'm sure we can all speculate on what would be required to build roads. Isn't there something like construction materials? I feel like that's a thing that we know. I went and looked at the goods post, and I actually don't see... Oh, it could be masonry. Masonry was what I was thinking of. Maybe we'll require some masonry and some stone. Other things, you know, maybe you want to feed the people making the roads, so we'll give them some... I don't know. Livestock, I don't know. But basically, there are a bunch of goods required. We don't know what those are yet. But, yeah, I just wanted to point out just how expensive these are to build. That is going to be a heavy sink. Whether this is the cost to build all the way to Idrea, and obviously we can't actually build inside Norway, So is the cost actually just from here in Kalmar to whatever this location is? Maybe? I don't know. That is something that may be something to look into. There's another thing that I want to point out as well on this image that I really don't like, and that is this little symbol here. This means that basically, to build this, you need to click, and you need to hold down the click button until the wheel fills up, and then it's done. I really don't like that. I really, really don't like that. I would much rather have a pop-up box saying, are you sure you want to spend 1,000 gold to build a road from here to Idrea? Or Idre? That being my preference. I really hate this click and hold thing. That is... I hate it. I really hate it. I do not want to see that for anything. I'm sure it will be in the game. I really hope it is optionable, like game options, because yeah, I'm a big hater of this system of click and hold to do actions. Not very good. But anyway, moving on to privacy and privateers. I nailed that pronunciation, don't even worry about it. To clarify here, a privateer is a pirate sponsored by a specific country. The ability to sponsor privateers has several different ways to unlock. First of all, every nation has access to an advance in the Age of Absolutism called Letter of Marque that reduces the cost for privateers while also making them sturdier. There are also unique advances in the Age of Discovery for some countries that allow them to hire privateers, while if you pick the diplomatic focus in the Age of Renaissance, you have the possibility to recruit privateers that early. Sponsoring a privateer can be done in an area and cost around 250 sailors per privateer, and 10 sailors each month that they are active. So you're basically sponsoring a single ship, right? Which is interesting. Interesting way of doing it. A pirate or privateer in an area, depending on its current strength, can reduce the maritime presence of all non-friendly countries in all sea zones in that area. And we know these areas can be quite substantial. This hurts relations and will give them a way to get a casus belli on you, though. So, depending on what this casus belli is going to be doing, right? If I am playing as Denmark and I start privateering England, they declare war on me. How are they going to stop me from sponsoring these privateers? How are they? Are they required to land in Denmark to get enough war score to force that issue? I hope not. I hope it is going to be, a blockade will be enough to prevent that, because I can see this being a case of... I can see it being, especially in multiplayer, a case of people privateering for the lulz and no one really being able to do anything about it, because, sure, you can go to war with me, but, yes, you have a stronger navy, I'll just park my guys. I know blockades hurt, but as soon as, a peace deal is reached, I'll just send the privateers back out again, which is not really the way it should be, I think. But, yeah. How do you fight privateers, other than, declaring war on the host nation? Well, you have a fleet of ships in any location in that sea area. They will actively reduce the capacity of the pirates. Galleys are a little bit better than heavy ships at hunting pirates, but light ships are by far the best at dealing with pirates, where a single light ship is about 10 times as effective as a heavy ship at the start of the game. This is interesting. Of course, we know that the different ship types will have the ability to all, protect trade. They all have the ability to transport troops. So the choice between which ships you use is essentially going to be down to what you need them to accomplish, right? If I'm mostly trading, I'll probably pick light ships up. If I'm planning on going to war, then heavy ships. But they can all do everything, which is means you don't have to have, this is my navy for transports, they will stay in dock until I am in need of them, and this is my navy for war, they will stay in dock until I am in need. That kind of way. You can use everything for everything, which is awesome. But looking at these Swedish privateers, they are from the Kingdom of Sweden. They have 61% power, and then that power is changing based on the fact that Sweden can't afford 10 sailors a month. Yeah. They're also being harassed by other navies, reducing that by 8% as well. I assume this is per month. There is a situation in the latter half of the 16th century where piracy will start to grow in certain areas of the map. I'm looking at you, Caribbean. Pirates will also have a chance to spawn from locations with pirate covens. These are buildings that peasants will build in coastal locations where the control is very low. So we have these privateer contracts, cost of hiring privateers. This is the privilege given to the burghers, and maintenance will go down as well. And yeah, that's pirates. That's privateers. Next week, we're talking about conquest, integration, and Cass's bellies. I am so happy for that. That is fantastic. Yes. The thing that I'm really harping on here, or I'm really excited here about for next week, is integration. Because we don't have mana in the game. That's not a thing that exists. But we're still going to have cores. So how are cores going to be made? There are a couple of games in Paradox's library that don't have mana but do have cores. I'm looking at you, Victoria 2. I'm looking at EU3, for example. So whether it is like either of those games or whether it is something completely new, we don't know yet. I guess we're going to find out next Wednesday. But I have a couple of comments that I would like to go over because, again, I've read the Tinto talk and the comments while in the car park of the airport, so I've seen a few of them already. But this is one we've seen already. Can we have the option of removing built roads if we wish to? You always hate an imperator conquering new land and then discovering that AI built random road paths all over the place is ugly and disorganized. In theory, it could be added, but removing roads is rather time-consuming in real life, and really doesn't make much gameplay sense. If roads don't have a maintenance cost, then just leaving them is fine. If they have a maintenance cost, then there absolutely should be a way of removing them, of course. Dealing with pirate coves in the Caribbean and Indian Ocean will be pretty immersive and fun, I can imagine. I wonder if these will lead to playable nations like in EU4 for us Pirate Republic enjoyers. And Johan going on to say that if they fix support for naval-based countries, then they will be great fun for that. This is something that we had suggested and thought of when we learned about the different types of countries that we could play. Naval-based countries for pirates, it was a big suggestion that seems to be on the way, maybe potentially. Why would I not just build a road in every province? Well, time and gold, like I said, the gold cost for these roads is obscene. They are obscene. So you are not going to be wanting to build roads absolutely everywhere. That is a crazy amount of money. In EU4, privateering can be pretty strong if you throw your entire navy into a trade node. Pretty hard for players to counter this. How will Project Caesar change it? Well, you don't use your war fleet to privateer in Project Caesar, so this thing about sponsoring privateers, it's not going to be a thing of, I have the biggest navy in the world, so I'm going to send all of them to privateer to basically naval troll someone. You're going to have to hire individual privateer pirates, essentially. I would very much like it if they were somehow represented, right? I would love it if, I'm going to hire this privateer, and it will tell me the name of the captain, it will tell me the name of his ship. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal. And there's a lot of space there for historical flavor. Like, for instance, we have this guy. This guy is Sir Francis Drake. One of the first people to circumnavigate the globe. Cool, good for him. But he was also hired as a privateer, and he preyed on Spanish merchant vessels along the way. And I think it would be incredible if, when we are hiring a privateer, we will get, you have just hired Sir Francis Drake. How fucking crazy is that? And yeah, I think that'd be really cool. That historical, immersive flavor, I am all for that kind of thing. Can we mod in new road types other than the 4 mentioned? Yes. Yes, you can. That's good for people like Anbana, who maybe want to add in the Golden Highway or something along those lines. Very nice. What happens when the sponsor of privateers goes bankrupt or stops existing? Do they become regular pirates? Also, are privateers and pirates units on the map, or are they more close in concept to a modifier? So they slowly disappear if, the country dies. But here is obviously a controversial one here. These guys don't exist on the map, really. And while I think that is fine, I don't want to be able to click on the privateer unit, seeing him sailing around back and forth. I do think it would be perfectly reasonable to show the guy on the map, show him with his black flag sailing around, just like if you think of in EU4, where we're seeing all these little ships, sailing along the trade routes. That kind of scale, I would be totally, absolutely, ecstatically happy if we saw little Francis Drake sailing around in the area that we've sent him, shooting at other, navies that, that little bit of immersion. These tiny models you don't get to click on, you don't get to interact with, but they're just there on the map doing things. Amazing. I would love that, and I hope that they end up doing that. I would argue that that still fits in with this, that they don't exist on the map really, but being able to see them and know that they're there just by looking, I'm sure there's a term for it. All I'm thinking of is like visual immersion, but I'm sure there's another term for it. And if you can think of it, leave it in the comment section below. Is the last of the four road types railroad? Yes, it is. That's going to be exceptionally late game. And then finally, if privateers aren't represented outside of calculation and only seem to cost manpower and funding, what's stopping an uninvolved country from privateering a market? Are the effectiveness of privates affected by one's maritime presence? What effect do privateers have on maritime presence as a whole? So you can only privateer areas within your naval range. It's also something that many nations with a strong navy would have no problems whatsoever in starting a war over. So, yes, you can privateer anywhere within your naval range, and we have seen, naval range, especially in the early game, is quite limited. But if you've got the sailors and you want to screw over your neighbors, then you can just totally do it. It is unclear as to what advantage, you as a country get. Like, you're not getting the spoils here, you're simply hurting your rivals. I don't see anything here about me getting the money that the privateers are taking from these merchant vessels. But maybe that is going to be a thing and it isn't actually written here. I'm kind of fine either way. I don't need that money to go back to, my country. Just hurting my rivals is enough of a win for me. But anyway, that is today's Dev Diary. Again, apologies that I am a bit late in sharing this. I will be back on Friday with the Tinto maps. I should be not late with that one. And we're going to be looking at all of India, the whole ass subcontinent of India. That's going to be a huge one, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this Tinto Talks, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.